Hi, this is Dr. Rebecca Corey, and I am here with Dr. Presley Rankin, and we are going to talk to you about comprehensive exams and case studies. Today's discussion is to help you prepare for your case study-based comprehensive exam. First, let's talk a little bit about why we have comprehensive exams. Comprehensive exams show that you have a professional level of knowledge in both the area of the leadership core and in your concentration area. We really are testing you on both your depth of knowledge and your breadth of knowledge. They also demonstrate that you're ready to write a dissertation, that you have the organizational, academic, analytical, and integrative skills to be ready to write, and the oral defense of the comprehensive exam is a precursor to the oral defense of your dissertation. And so that defense will prepare you ultimately for your dissertation defense. Why have the faculty at CityU chosen the comprehensive exam format that we have of the case study? It demonstrates that you have the key skills necessary on the job market. You have the ability to defend your position, and you have the ability to field interview questions like you might get in the oral defense of the exam. It shows that you have the ability to communicate your knowledge clearly and professionally, and that you can take on challenging, draining intellectual work. This exam is supposed to be difficult. Some guidelines for preparing for the exam. You are to write independently. That means you should not get help or discuss the questions with other students or City University faculty. That also means that you should not have your papers reviewed or have input from other people in your professional network or in your family. You should cite most or all of the readings from your core for the 680 exam or from your concentration from the 681 exam. These really are to be foundational on the information you've already learned at CityU. You should be integrating all of those courses into your thinking for the exam. You must use accurate APA style. And you should edit judiciously. You need to be both comprehensive and succinct. It's an ambitious goal, but we know you can do it. There are 4 possible grade outcomes for the comprehensive exam. The first outcome is a submission rejection. This happens when students turn in exams that do not pass the review with Turnitin, or whose initial review of their APA formatting or grammar is so far below standard that it is not ready to be graded. At this point, you will be asked to rewrite your exam before the faculty take a look at it at all. Once the faculty have looked at the exam, there are 3 other possible grade outcomes. A pass. Students pass their exam with no revisions. A revise and resubmit status, where students will have revisions. They will be given direct feedback from the committee, and they will have to address those either by revising what they have already done or by submitting an additional paper or addendum to their exam. That will then be regraded, and the students will get the pass or the fail grade. Students who fail their comprehensive exam go through the following process. Their transcript will reflect a Y grade. They will then take a minimum of 1 quarter to rewrite the exam to passing level. They will work with the doctoral student administrator and have the final exam draft approved by a committee member. So between the doctoral student administrator and one of the committee members, they will then be given permission to retake the exam. There is no charge if it is retaken within the next 3 quarters following the failed quarter. And they must pass the exam before taking the other one if one remains. A student may not fail the comprehensive exam a second time. If they do, there is no opportunity to take it again. So some of the basics on the case study. Why did we choose a case study for your comprehensive exam? First, it demonstrates analytic thinking. It makes you take all of these ideas and bring them together in an analysis and synthesis. It demonstrates the application of the theoretical concepts. It requires you to synthesize material from multiple classes and your experience. And it pushes you outside your comfort zone to show that you really are an expert. We expect you to write a professional quality paper. and it should have appropriate APA citations and professional level spelling and grammar. So how might you approach your case study? You may want to think about the problem that the case is asking you to solve. What are the known facts in the case? What issues are unknown by what is presented in the case? What would the people involved need to consider to solve the problem? And how does the content you've learned in your classes help you solve the problem you've presented in the case? You need to confidently defend your position. And in summary of my part of this discussion, I would like to let you know that it is more important that you confidently defend your position than that you discover a correct answer. One of the great things about case studies is that there are multiple correct answers, and defending your position is the best way to show that you know what you're talking about. Over to Presley.
Hi. I am Presley Rankin, Dr. Presley Rankin, the doctoral student administrator, and my job is to make sure that you understand how to do case studies before you get to the comprehensive exam phase. I also would be the one to help you if there were any problems and you failed the exam. I help with the rewriting. So let's talk a little bit about the case study. What is a case study? A case study is the study of a single case. That case could be a person, a business, an organization, a city, a region. It's used as an example for the analysis of a topic or idea. Case studies can be done as a methodology, but often they're done as what we have in the exam, which is you're presented with a case and you're supposed to write about that case and come up with ideas. The academic case study, which is what you'll be doing in your comprehensive exams, the purpose is to identify problems or issues in the case. You're then going to analyze the problems and find research to support your ideas. You're going to mostly draw from what you've already learned and read during the course of study at CityU. You're then going to create recommendations from the research for the case at hand. So for this first part, where you're identifying the problems or the issues in the case, one of the most common things that people try to do is make up facts. You don't want to make up facts. You don't want to create things that have happened for this company or school or whatever the case study may be that haven't happened. If there's something unknown, you can point out that it's not known, but you should not make it up. You need to read the case study twice, once for the big picture and then once for the facts. You then want to sort through the major problems and focus on what are the major issues and then what are some minor problems. Those minor problems could be connected to the major issues or they could be something small to the side of a major issue. You want to find evidence and background facts from the case. What are the facts that the case does tell you? Don't focus on what's missing, focus on what you're being told in the case. Look for causes, constraints, obstacles for the problems that you identify. This problem identification phase helps you to understand how you're going to organize your paper. Sometimes you may want to mind map, which is to put the issues down on paper and draw connecting lines to try to put them in some kind of order. You can also do this by creating an outline to get you started on how you want to organize the problems and present them in your case study. Here's an example of a mind map. In this situation, we are pulling the major ideas here that are in circles. We're then connecting them together if they connect together, or we're putting lines to them to show how the order we want to place them in. Underneath the circles, we put some notes about things we found, facts or other ideas that come to mind. And that kind of tells you about what the topic in that circle is going to be about and how you're going to use it. The second phase of a good case study is to analyze the problems and find research to support your ideas. Now, you're going to need to relate your problems to larger themes. So you try to organize the problems around what you see as the bigger picture. Is it a communication issue? So you might have several problems that are connected to communication. Is it a leadership issue, a leadership style, or the method of leadership that the person is using in the case study? That might be an organizational theme. Or is it marketing? Is it the way the company is being marketed? It could be anything that creates a larger category that might be a section of your paper where you discuss these problems. Then find research that connects to the theme. Again, focus on what you've learned at CityU because you want to integrate those readings into your paper. However, you may also pull in other research that you find, but it does need to be peer-reviewed academic research and not newspapers or other sources that are secondary. Specifically, target research that also includes solutions to similar problems. So find research that has a solution to the problems you found or to a similar problem maybe in another company or in another field, but that could be applied to this case study. Here's an example of applying research. In this example, the things in orange are the integration of theory. This would be a paragraph in your case study, and it shows how you layer your research. The research needs to go into talking about the issue. Then that needs to be backed up with evidence from the case, followed by more theory from your research, followed by more clarity around why this is a problem for this company. So what you're relating to is you're relating to the problem in the case study and you're applying research to it. You present the facts from the case, but you also present your interpretation of of why it's an issue and how the research can connect to that issue. The goal of applying research in your case study is to demonstrate how your ideas are connected to what you've learned. Now, you obviously don't want to use your opinion as stated like I believe or I think or this is the best way to do it. You never want to give an opinion in that way. Instead, what you're really doing is stating your opinion by how you present the research. It's showing your argument to the reader. You should be able to successfully defend the ideas that you've come up with. If you point something out as a problem, you want to then use research to support you. You can characterize that research by saying something like Rankin 2014 successfully argued, or Smith 2012 did not clearly prove, or several prominent researchers in the field of organizational leadership believe or assert that blah blah blah. What you're doing is using the research to show that whether it's important, whether it's not important, and how it applies to what you're writing about. And again, you're still going to want to make up facts. You're still going to say, but wait, they should have done a survey of their employees to find out if their employees are happy. I didn't see that survey, so I'm just going to say they did it. No. Instead, recommend that more facts should be gathered. An analysis of the management structure will need to be conducted before Jones can apply Smith's theory of flat management. So if Smith has this theory that you think will work, but before that theory could be used, you need to find out whether the employees are happy or not, then that would be a recommendation that first you find out if the employees are happy, and then if not, you apply this theory. Remember to deal with the present, but you write in the past tense. So you're dealing with what's going on in the company. Don't move into the future. Don't try to project further out into the future. Write about what's going on right now. But remember, when you're talking about research, you do want to write in the past tense. Don't pretend something was done in order to get to the next thing you want to do. So don't pretend or again make up facts that you were that you conducted a study or you did this or you did that just because you want to then move on to something else and say that you can do that. You need to deal with what's happening right now, and if that doesn't say something's been done, then it hasn't. And remember, it's okay to talk about what might need to be done. And then you could talk about how to apply the research once you find out the information. you need to create recommendations from the research for your case. You need to clearly connect the facts from the case to the research. You want to organize your paper by thinking about what questions does the study ask you, what themes do the problems connect to, and then you want to use headings to organize the paper so that the reader understands what you're talking about. What is the theme of this particular section of your paper? What are the problems that you see? And then what are the recommendations and how do they solve these problems? You want to be clear, you want to be creative. And remember that if there's questions in the case study, answer those questions. If you're graded on those 5 questions, you need to answer those 5 questions. So don't skip over a whole question because you don't think it applies or don't want to talk about it. You do need to integrate those into your work. Once you consider your problems, you do want to come up with several potential solutions. And you want to evaluate them and discuss them in your paper. You're going to use research to do this, and you're going to use the evidence from the paper. You can talk about the advantages or disadvantages, the costs, the resources, the expertise that the solutions would require. One problem can have several solutions. So you may want to try to develop out several solutions to the problem. This is going to be the meat of your paper. This is where we're going to see your intellectual prowess as you chop up the possible solutions to this problem and present them with the accompanying research. While you can have many solutions to a problem, you will only have one recommendation, or at least one main recommendation that you should come up with in your study. So solutions tell me what you would do. Recommendations then tell you how you're going to do it. Which solution are you going to pick, and then how is it going to be implemented? You need to use research with this to show how this solution is the best one for the problem and how it's going to be implemented. Recommendations need to be clear and precise. They need to be realistic. They need to be matched to the facts from your case, and they need to be clearly identified. If you write a recommendation but the reader of the paper can't find it or doesn't recognize it as a recommendation, you're not going to get credit for it, and therefore you're not going to pass your exam. You must make sure that the reader knows you're clearly that you've now making a recommendation, and you'd be making that recommendation for this case. And it, again, has to be based on research, not your opinion or your idea. It needs to be based on research. So here's some quick tips. Stick to the questions at hand and specific response requirements. So some case studies will just say, read this case study and present us with some possible, identify the problems and give us some solutions and recommendations. Some case studies may have specific questions that they want you to look at. You need to understand if your case study is one or the other. Make sure if it has questions that you create headings from those questions. Don't copy the question directly as it is. Craft the question into a heading. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Also, you want to get straight to the point. If you look at these 2 paragraphs, you'll see the first one, the question was, describe what you would do if a rabid dog showed up in the building. The answer starts telling a story about when they were camping and all this other stuff. Everything in this paragraph is useless. It's filler. It doesn't apply to the problem. It's not going to get you a good grade. It is not part of a good academic research paper. You can save this for your creative writing class. Instead, you see the second block, describe what you would do if a rabid dog had showed up in the building. This student created a header, emergency preparedness, the case of the rabid dog. So that tells the reader they're answering the rabid dog question. It's very clear. The reader knows what you're going to do, and then you go and do it. The school leaders cannot be prepared, but first I think this and this and this. It gives you a system of solutions of what you would do in this situation. Now, obviously, these are first-person examples, and you'll be writing in third person, but the idea is get to the point. Don't give me a lot of filler. And while we're on that subject, Also, don't just present research. This isn't a research report. Don't do a bunch of research and then just copy that research down in your paper and say it in your own words. The research must connect to the topic. It must connect to the case study, the facts in the case study. You want to organize it that way. Don't just present research after research after research. Tell me why that research is being used for this particular problem, and is it your final recommendation, and then how will that be implemented? Here's an example of what I was talking about. If there's questions in your case study, create headings from them. Don't copy the question exactly. You want to condense the question into the essential meaning the question has. Obviously, if the reader is going to understand, especially if the reader is a grader, which they will be in this case, what question you're answering based on the words that you're putting into the questions. You also want to identify when you get to the summary or the conclusion at the end of the paper so that the person knows that you're now finished with the paper and you're summarizing it. Okay, well that was it. Remember, you can always contact me, rankinp@cityu.edu, if you have questions, or you can contact the doctoral student administrator if I'm not around or move to another position. They will always be there to help you. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Corey.
Thank you.